Welcome to all. I'm going to read an introduction to Jeannie's program to you. Jeannie was born into doll collecting. To her, it's a way of life. She had been coming to doll club meetings with her mom, Barbara Steiker, since she was a baby. Jeannie became a proud member of the National Doll and Toy Collectors Club in 1970 when she was 11 years old. She followed in Barbara's footsteps as Barbara joined in 1940 when she was 15 years old and was a very close and dear friend of Mary Lewis, our founder. This program will show photographs and other memorabilia starting with the very early days of the first club, the National Doll and Toy Collectors Club, and ultimately UFDC. It will show early members, the pioneers of organized doll collecting, and tell stories about Mary Lewis, our illustrious founder. And some of us had the privilege of seeing this um, at convention. It's a fabulous program, and you are really going to enjoy it. And we thank Jeannie so much for sharing it with us.
Well, thank you. Where it all began, the National Doll and Toy Collectors Club of New York City. For most of us, doll collecting is a choice. I'd say all of us choose to be doll collectors. We're members of doll clubs, even on Zoom here. We're guests of the doll clubs. We'll attend monthly meetings, go to special luncheons, programs, doll shows, exhibits, and attend UFDC convention. I first presented this program, as Barb said, at the convention in Kansas City, which was UFDC's 75th anniversary. And doll collecting is a part of life. I was born into it, no option there. It's just something that you did. We all collected dolls. That's who we are. My mom, Barbara Steiker, was an early and avid doll collector. Some of you might remember her. She passed away just about 20 years ago, right before she was due to leave for convention that year. She was very proud of her affiliation with UFDC and especially with the National Doll and Toy Collectors Club, where she served as president several times. She was most proud of her close and special friendship with Mary Lewis. Mom presented programs at conventions, was a dealer, and a judge of the competitive exhibit. But her affiliation and her passion started way back. I'm sure you all know the history of UFDC, but we're just going to go over it a little bit. Our founder, Mary Ernestine Lewis, was sure there were others like her who collected dolls. So in 1937, she went on Mary Margaret McBride's radio show to ask if there was anyone else interested in doll collecting, to meet her at the Hotel Pennsylvania in New York City. By now, most of us have heard of this famous radio show, but here are some facts about it. In the 1940s, Mary Margaret McBride's daily housewife-oriented program had an audience of 6 to 8 million listeners, and she was nicknamed the First Lady of Radio. In a career that spanned over 40 years, it's estimated that she interviewed 30,000 guests and produced 15,000 shows. Mary Margaret McBride was born in Paris, Missouri, about 175 miles from UFDC headquarters in Kansas City. Anyway, when Mary was on there, she encouraged people to meet her. And 8 women showed up at the Hotel Pennsylvania, and the National Doll and Toy Collectors Club was formed. This group of women grew into a large, active club interested in sharing doll information, studying and learning about different dolls. We continued to meet there for decades as it became the Hotel Statler and the Statler Hilton. The club started to grow, and Mary traveled throughout the country to help organize unit clubs. Unit 14, whoops, I'm getting ahead of myself, but here's the Hotel Pennsylvania. Just some little facts about it. Okay. Mary traveled through the country to help organize unit clubs. Unit 14 was the S. Maud Jones Jr. unit, formed in 1940. My mom was 15 at that time. She and Mary Lewis were very close through all the years. She was Mary's prodigy. Mary was her mentor. When UFDC was formed in 1949, my mom was one of the signers of the Papers of Incorporation. Although Mary was originally from Brooklyn, in her later years, she moved to Cape Cod, specifically Martha's Vineyard, to be close to her son. My family went on a road trip every summer, and in 1966, knowing she was in poor health, we went to the Cape to visit her. I was very young at the time, about 7 years old, so now if you want to do the math, you know how old I am. but I remember the excitement Mom had to see her special friend. She was like a child anticipating a trip to the circus or the ice cream store. When we got there, the love and admiration these two women had for each other was very evident. I don't remember the conversation or what her house looked like, but as the great poet Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I can remember thinking how special this lady was. But who was Mary Lewis? Let's go back to those pictures. Wife, mother, doll collector extraordinaire, a true leader and inspiration. She was remarkable, a visionary, determined. She traveled all over the country, helping to establish more doll clubs and units. She was determined to make doll collecting one of the most popular and widespread hobbies in the country. She also traveled with doll exhibits, raising money for worthwhile causes. Mary served on her draft board after the United States entered into World War II and drove a Red Cross ambulance. When President Eisenhower started the People to People program in 1957, Mary was appointed chairman of the Doll and Hobby Division of the People to People Hobbies Committee. The other club members got involved and donated dolls to a collection that was the first to leave the United States as cultural ambassadors. The People to People program was developed to encourage Americans to create contacts with foreign people, fostering understanding and friendship through educational, cultural, and humanitarian activities. It involved the exchange of ideas and experiences among people of different countries and diverse cultures. There were 40 committees established, including cartoonists, sports, medical, hobbies, etc. Mary was an active member of the Order of the Eastern Star, a fraternal organization which participated in charitable endeavors. She even served as her chapter's grand matron. She encouraged my mom to join this group and was her sponsor, mentor, friend, and now her fraternal sister. When Mom was installed as matron, Mary flew in from Albany in a snowstorm to share in her special day. You can imagine what it took in those years to fly in a snowstorm, because we know what it's like to fly now. She was an author and researcher, teacher and educator when it came to dolls. Mary loved sharing her vast collection comprised of many types of dolls. One of her biggest delights was to travel around the country and seek out collectors in other cities or areas. Upon returning to New York, she would happily announce the creation of another unit of National. Under her direction and leadership, the National Doll and Toy Collectors Club was really growing into quite a large organization. She was determined to make doll collecting one of the most popular and widespread hobbies in the country. In the early days of the Doll Club, the members participated in many exhibitions, get-togethers, excursions, educational and charitable events. Today, I'm going to share some of the mementos and photographs of those events. That was way before my time, but as Barb said, I've been a member of the National Doll and Toy Collectors Club since 1970. I used to go to the meetings every month with my mom since I was a baby, and some of the ladies decided that I was getting older at the ripe old age of 11, and it wasn't right that I could come every month without being a member. So I proudly filled out a membership application and have been a full member ever since. We didn't have any junior members at that time. Of course, Mom had to pay double dues for herself and for myself. Anyway, back to the beginning. The thing that you see on the screen was from a local department store, Gertz, who had a doll competition. And Mary Lewis is in the back row. And then in the middle row to the right is my mom. And in the middle is June Gavin Unger, who was a member of the club for many, many years as well. So Mary Lewis and Peggy Zier were two of the judges. That's when my mom entered it and met Mary Lewis. And in my mom's words, she said, "One of the outstanding days of my life will always be February 12th, 1940. This is the day I was privileged to make the acquaintance of a wonderful lady, Mary Lewis. She had come to the Gertz department store located in Jamaica, a town on Long Island, to act as a judge in an annual doll contest held there. Lifelong friendships came from all these doll club affiliations." There's some more of the covers. They would put out these little brochures. And that's my mom in the left picture looking at some of the dolls on exhibit. The World's Fair of 1939 to 1940 was still going on in New York. A special visit and luncheon was arranged for our members to attend. Many members signed up for this event. 20 people met at the Hotel Pennsylvania, where they boarded the Long Island Railroad to go to the fairgrounds. They enjoyed lunch at the Swedish American Pavilion at 12:30. There were special exhibits throughout the fair, with a marionette show in the open-air theater at the Standard Brands area, a marionette exhibit in the food building, and a showing of dolls in native costumes at the French, Italian, Polish, Peruvian, Iraqi, Romanian, and Czechoslovakian pavilions. Some of the pavilions offered dolls for sale. In the Hall of Nations, there was a demonstration of Japanese doll making. The only state listed on the schedule was Missouri, and that state exhibit showed dolls representing historic Missouri women. I wonder if that was a sign of things to come, with UFDC headquarters now in Missouri. I'm sure they could never have dreamed of it. Later in the day, club members had tea at the National Advisory Building, where they could sit down and rest their feet. Again, a group of members attended the 1964-65 World's Fair in Flushing Meadow Park in New York. I know they also had organized plans. Here's a picture of the S. Moore Jones Jr. unit that I mentioned. Mary Lewis and S. Moore Jones are in the back row. And then my mom is down in the front, second from the right, and June Gavin, again, is to her right. We always participated in activities to raise money for philanthropic causes, especially for the benefit of children. After the war, we adopted several orphans through the Save the Children Federation. During the Christmas season, we donated toys or gifts for children in hospitals or other needy children. Large doll exhibits were organized to benefit the Red Cross, China Relief, the Fourth War Loan Drive, Eastern Star War Fund, and other worthwhile groups during the war. Bathrobes, slippers, and other necessities, and even ambulances were purchased for wounded servicemen. A first big doll show was the Pan American Doll Fiesta, held on April 25th to 26, 1941 at the Hotel Pennsylvania. Every time they had special exhibits or luncheons, everybody loved to dress up in those days. Every picture I have, they're wearing different outfits, different costumes, and this is one of them. This show brought together Latin American consular dignitaries with our members. We dressed in traditional costumes for this large gathering. Dolls from Pan American countries were displayed, with Uncle Sam standing guard. Our members dressed in traditional costumes representing Costa Rica, Honduras, Panama, Peru, Mexico, and other countries. The second day was a luncheon with guest speakers such as the Consul General from Bolivia and a woman bringing greetings from Pan American women south of the border. And there were some postcards here that showed dolls and advertised it from our club. Here's some more of them dressed up in the various costumes, including, it looks like a Girl Scout costume all the way to the right, Mary Lewis all the way to the left. And they always had corsages on people as well. And here's Uncle Sam standing guard, again, with many dolls from all these different countries. There are some of the dignitaries who look very solemn, very serious. Mary Lewis is in the center with the flowered dress on. My mom is bottom to the right. Around this time, Mary came up with the idea of a publication which would serve all units. This way, ideas could be shared, and we could see what members in other clubs were doing. Prior to this, each club was putting out their own newsletters. Of course, I'm talking about Doll News. It made its debut at the Pan American Doll Fiesta. Doll News was met with great success and brought all the units closer. Mary Lewis was not just the originator, but also served as the first editor. She'd be so proud to see what Doll News is like today. And I just got mine a couple weeks ago, or a week ago, whatever. It's a beautiful publication. Soon afterwards, our club changed the name of our publication to Doll Views. And as it says on the screen, it goes forth at the time of the second annual convention, sponsored because of the hope that the adage, "In unity there is strength," will be the ultimate result of interchange of ideas and the spirit of meeting folks interested in the same field of endeavor. In 1944, the Avenue of Flags and Dolls was an exhibition in Baltimore for the Fourth War Loan. Mary displayed over 800 dolls from the early 18th century to modern dolls from the Allied nations. While there, she visited with members from clubs in Baltimore and Washington, D.C. We always had Christmas parties. Here's a pretty big one at St. Luke's Hospital. Again, raising money and donating things to help children. And somebody dressed as Santa right in the middle there. A project adopted by the members of the club was called the Pocket Toy Project, making toys for children of the war. Patterns were distributed, and our members made small cloth dolls to be distributed to children affected by World War II. Members were expected to make one little pocket pal a month. Thousands of these little dolls were sent out to children made by members in all units across the country. Some recipients were the American Red Cross, Save the Children, British War Relief Society, Army Relief Society, Navy Relief Society, Bundles for Britain, and more. While the whole world is taking care of the adults, the members of National wanted to look into the future happiness of war babies and children. Here's an early picture of Mary Lewis with my mom. Okay. And this was a favor given out at our 8th luncheon in 1945. Through the years, we've had some notable members of the National Doll and Toy Collectors Club, as I'm sure we all can claim. Doll artist Gertrude Florian, Dorothy Heiser, and Muriel Briere were early members, and more recent doll artists such as Maggie Finch and Robert Tanner, who's a past president of our club. We've had actresses, professional ballet dancers, costume designers, a television Emmy Award winner, doll artists and dealers, UFDC presidents. But our club also had a spy. One of our most notorious members was Velvalee Dickinson, who was convicted of spying during World War II. Known as the Doll Woman, Dickinson used her New York City doll shop as base of operations to spy on and send messages about the U.S. Navy to her Japanese contacts in Argentina. She used other customers' names to send information about U.S. Navy warships, disguising the info as doll information. For example, a doll which was broken in the middle and being fixed represented a ship recently undergoing repairs for a midship torpedo hit. Her code was easily broken, and she was caught by the FBI in 1944 and sentenced to 10 years in prison. In 1944, a large exhibit of Mary Lewis's bridal dolls called the Gallery of Diamonds and Dolls opened at the Park Lane Hotel in New York City. It traced bridal traditions through 2 centuries of American history and was sponsored by N.W. Ayer and Son for De Beers Consolidated Mines, the largest distributor of diamonds. This exhibit showcased 24 of Mary's antique dolls and 6 dolls dressed by famous fashion designers of the day, alongside diamond bridal jewelry. Some of the dolls wore jewelry made from genuine diamonds and other precious stones. Mary traveled around the country with this special exhibit. Money raised was donated to help the war effort. Following this exhibit, Mary had the idea to write a book called The Marriage of Diamonds and Dolls, published in 1947. It was co-authored by Dorothy Dignam, who provided the facts about the diamond jewelry and was illustrated with pictures and stories of many dolls featured in the traveling exhibit. The book jacket states it's 5 books between 2 covers: a romantic history, a fashion chronicle, a doll book, a diamond guide, and a reference volume. This book pictured Mary's bride dolls from antique to ethnic. It also included some bridal party dolls. This is a picture of Mary Lewis with her favorite one. This doll's dress was made from Mary's wedding dress, and it was dressed by one of our doll club members, Lulu Krieger. It was fondly called Little Miss Lewis. Here's some of the other bride dolls from the book. The dedication in the book reads, "To my husband, Charlie Lewis, who has mastered the delicate art of living with a doll collector." I'm sure our families can relate to that. Some things never change. Okay. Mary started to conceive an idea about another organization, somewhat of a parent organization. It would be formed with a group of officers elected from the various clubs or units. The plan was to hold an annual convention in a different city every year. The country would be divided into regions. A charter was applied for in New York State. Linnea Edelheim, who was our president at the time, was a practicing attorney, and she drew up the necessary paperwork. My mom was one of the signers of the original charter along with Mary Lewis, and the formation of the United Federation of Doll Clubs was announced at our annual luncheon in 1950. Plans were immediately made to hold the first annual convention in New London, Connecticut. There were about 150 members there. This is a little favor from an annual luncheon. And here's our number one charter, dated June 23rd, 1949, number one from UFDC. The cover of Doll News in November 1950 states the purposes and ideals of the United Federation of Doll Clubs: to unite into one federation the various doll units and other kindred bodies, to serve as a clearinghouse of ideas and promotions relating to doll collecting, to create, stimulate, and maintain a national interest in all matters pertaining to doll collecting, to encourage independent projects which tend to increase interest in or otherwise advance doll collecting, and to establish and promote educational and philanthropic endeavors through dolls. This was the souvenir from the first convention. It's a hand-painted china plate featuring Dolly National, which of course is National Doll and Toy Collectors Club logo, and it was the original logo of UFDC. And there you can see Dolly National. It says Federation Club pin, Miss Dolly National. Here it's announcing the second annual convention. You can see what Doll News used to look like. And the second convention was held in Detroit, Michigan in 1951. At this time, Mary Lewis was presented with a beautiful portrait doll made by Gertrude Florian to express appreciation for all she had done for the clubs, for UFDC, and for doll collecting. This doll is in the UFDC Museum. A much smaller version of the doll was also made by Gertrude Florian and given to be used as the grand door prize. Teresa St. Germain won this extraordinary doll. Years later, in 1972, my mom was privileged to purchase this doll from Miss St. Germain. The wigs on both dolls are made of Mary Lewis's own hair. So there's a picture of the larger portrait doll and our logo doll, Dolly National, made by Jenny Comfort. 1953 was the year of Queen Elizabeth's coronation, a very special event indeed. Mary again traveled throughout the United States and Canada with a special exhibit featuring dolls of the British royal family and replicas of the British crown jewels. The centerpiece of this display were two dolls by Dorothy Heiser of Queen Elizabeth, one in her wedding gown and the other in her coronation robes. Gala-themed luncheons were held every April. Here's some pictures from the 1952 one. We had guest speakers, and sometimes the members dressed to match the theme. Well, this was a Japanese luncheon. Oh, there's an article in the People's Home News magazine on bridal dolls. We're going to get to some more luncheon pictures. Annual convention pictures. That's the third annual convention, rather. I'm looking for this picture. There we go. We'll get back to the other one. Here's a visit to the Brooklyn Children's Museum. Some of the different speakers and the different themes we had for the luncheons were Easter Hat Parade, where members wore their finest hats for a competition and entered dolls into the Easter hat competition. The Easter Hat Parade categories were most beautiful, there we go, most original, and the oldest. The doll hat contest categories were bonnet dolls, old and modern hats on dolls, and national costume hats on dolls. 1955 brought us Springtime in France, or there's some more of the Easter Hat Parade. And you can see these ladies really dressed up. Here's the Springtime in France, 1955. There's a display at the Antique Show in 1955. Here's another costume event. There we go. The annual luncheon in 1956. The theme was the gay 90s, and they had a wonderful performance by a singer, Miss Rose Anselmo, performing songs of the gay 90s, followed by a fashion parade. Here she is standing behind members. Margaret Whitten is the second from the left, who was a doll dealer for many years. My mom, Rosemary Sullivan, and Mary Lewis all the way to the right. I remember in the 1960s when we had a theme from India, and the guest speaker wore the most beautiful sari that looked very exotic to me in the time. In the 1980s, one theme was bride dolls, and we had a fashion show with members modeling wedding gowns and other bridal attire. It was great. I got to wear my wedding gown a second time. Another notable event was the International Doll Pageant held in 1950 in cooperation with Friends of Greece. The proceeds from this show were used to purchase medical equipment for the Pandeli Children's Hospital in Athens, Greece. Members took out ads in a program journal. Oh, there's another picture from the gay 90s. Mary Lewis all the way to the left, and my mom all the way to the right. Some bathing beauty there. The 1950s brought the largest fundraising endeavor to date. The New York Philanthropic League was a favorite charity of Mary Lewis. They were raising money to buy and remodel an old building in New York City to be used as a full-time recreation center for disabled children. It would be called Rainbow House. The National Doll and Toy Collectors Club pledged $2,500 for a hobby room there. This money was to be used to establish, equip, and maintain this room with a permanent doll exhibit beginning with the Peggy Zier Memorial Doll Collection and dolls to be studied. The hope of Rainbow House was for the handicapped children to realize their full potential, have hope, and become active citizens. The $2,500 we pledged would be the equivalent of over $29,000 today. I can't imagine raising that much money for one charity. Even the smallest amounts really added up. One member, Holly Hollenbeck, sold hats and then started selling jewelry. Or people would sell a coat, anything to raise money for this special project. Margaret Whitten and Mrs. Brewer raised money through an antique show and sale. Members sponsored teas in their homes, and a stage mom got friends to make donations. A luncheon with entertainment was held, with proceeds going to Rainbow House. Our doll club put out a 20th anniversary subscription book, again with proceeds going to this worthy cause. And it said, if you want to be happy, make others happy. Here's a picture that you've had time to look at of National Doll and Toy Collectors Club officers. Some of you may have known some of these people. And we always had a lot of publicity. Ann Thomas was a TV and radio personality, and she was in the New York Sunday News in December 1956, showcasing a lot of her dolls. I'll leave this one up there for a little bit in case you want to take a look at some of those dolls. And we're just going to go back a little bit to that one. In 1955, the National Doll and Toy Collectors Club put on a very impressive exhibit at the Antique Show in New York. They were getting more and more members and getting more and more publicity. In April 1960, I'm going to put the other one back on the screen again because that's kind of fun to look at. In April 1962, we held our 25th anniversary luncheon. Here are some words from Mary Lewis in the program. In extending our hands in welcome, we of the National Doll and Toy Collectors Club, on this auspicious occasion of its 25th silver anniversary, look back into 1937, when the first seed of doll collecting was planted by a courageous 8 collectors whose ambitions were to acquaint the world that doll collecting had its purpose, that of using dolls for study, education, and charity. We have brought doll collecting from the lowest status into third place in the field of collecting. Doll collecting has brought forth fruit far beyond the expectations of the original pioneers. So it was with a heart of deepest thanks that your founder greets the great number of pioneers who made all this possible and who have brought so much joy to so many. Here's some more people at a luncheon. These are some of the programs from the luncheons. Hand-drawn typewritten, not done on computers like we have now. We always had great holiday parties. And as you saw earlier, Santa used to make an appearance. There were grab bags, raffles, and donations to worthy causes helping children in need. Usually we'd send gifts and toys, but we'd also send some money. I always enjoyed seeing other children and grandchildren of our members. Here's a photo of Mary Lewis and my brother lighting a Hanukkah menorah at one of the holiday parties in the late 1950s or early 1960s. So I was lucky enough to find a picture of Mary Lewis and my brother, but I can't find any pictures of Mary Lewis with me. But that's okay. This was our silver anniversary luncheon program. And the doll that's pictured there, Sarah Josepha Hale, is actually in the UFDC Museum in Kansas City with her trunk, and she had a very extensive wardrobe. The opening greeting in the anniversary journal, Mary Lewis said, "May we look into the future and say, may the Creator bring back unto you a thousandfold the joys that each and every one has so unselfishly given to the world of doll collecting." And here are some pictures from the silver anniversary luncheon. Mary Lewis with some of her bride dolls. Sarah Goldsmith was a member of ours who was a teacher, and she made these marionettes. There's another member, Valerie Stern, dressed like a baby, and Rosemary Sullivan to the right. And there's Mary Lewis with the portrait doll. There's a luncheon, 1966. Mary Lewis, Gertrude Reinhardt, Rosemary Sullivan, and my mom. And there she is. Mary Lewis suffered a severe stroke and was hospitalized, unconscious and in poor condition. Somehow regained consciousness, but her recovery would be long and slow. Due to her stamina and perseverance, she became stronger and was able to return to some of her activities, but with only partial use of her left hand. She resumed many of her doll activities, and that's when she moved to Martha's Vineyard to be with her son and daughter-in-law. When we visited Mary there in 1966, she presented my mom with her own Dolly National as a remembrance of their long and close friendship. When Dolly National was made by Jenny Comfort, my mom was a high school student and was not able to purchase one for herself. This doll was one of her most cherished dolls in her collection, especially because it was Mary's. Of course, Mary organized a doll club in Martha's Vineyard as she missed all of her doll friends back in New York. She always attended our annual luncheons in April, even after she moved. When she attended the 1967 luncheon, it was noticeable that she was not in good health, and she felt it would be the last luncheon she'd be able to attend. In September of that year, she felt well enough to travel to England to visit relatives. We received letters from her during that trip. Sadly, in October, she passed away, the very day of our doll club meeting. I think there's some spirituality working there. The doll world lost an amazing woman, but her legacy remains. She was a true pioneer, leading us into the uncharted territory of doll collecting and doll clubs, a real visionary. Our club continued to thrive. We hosted a regional in 1972 for Region 4 team, and in 1979 we were the host club for the UFDC convention commemorating the 30th anniversary. That was 45 years ago. In those days, clubs hosted the conventions. They weren't organized by UFDC like they are today. We established the Mary Lewis Memorial Scholarship, awarded to a student at the Fashion Institute of Technology studying fashion design. Here's a picture from our 50th anniversary luncheon in 1987, which was a great affair and well attended. In this photo, I'm right in the middle in that turquoise and black dress. My mom is next to me in the burgundy dress. On the other side of me is our dear friend and former regional director, Rosemary Sullivan. Loretta Nardone is in the middle towards the left, wearing a cream color dress and holding Dolly National. Her mom, Jeannie's next to her. Some members are holding the favor from this special luncheon, a modern version of Dolly National. Other people some of you might recognize. In the front row is Leona Peterson wearing that blue dress. Next to her is Gertrude Long, and then Lennon Hoyt, who had a doll museum in New York City many years ago. Whoops, what happened there? Right in the center are Howard Waxler and Joe Floyd. They were both very active members. Towards the right is Grace Dyer, who was also a doll dealer. Oh, right in the middle, as I said, Howard Waxler and Joe Floyd. Joe Floyd's ancestor, William Floyd, signed the Declaration of Independence and has a parkway named after him on Long Island. When we went to the National Portrait Gallery in the city, to the portrait of William Floyd looks exactly like Joe many, many generations later. And there was our 80th anniversary luncheon in 2017. There's our president, Susan Horwich, right in front, holding Dolly National. There's Patricia, I see. There's Annette. A lot of people there you might recognize, right? I'm right in the middle. Robert Tanner is right behind me, holding my daughter, Tara. No, sorry, holding my granddaughter, Bayla. Not Tara, obviously. Holding my granddaughter, Bayla. When you think about it, it's really quite remarkable how our organization grew, starting with the original 8 ladies. Now we send out email reminders about club meetings, but in the early days, postcards were sent. Oh, here's another picture from the luncheon in 2017. That's my granddaughter looking at one of the exhibits of dolls. Years ago, people would keep in touch through the mail, as making a long-distance phone call was a big deal and very expensive. Travel was much more difficult back then, too. Research was much more time-consuming. There was no internet or Google. Members were happy to share their areas of expertise as we do today. Times have changed, but here we are, still collecting dolls, looking for that one special find just waiting for us. Still promoting doll collecting, sharing our hobby, or as they called it back then, our avocation. Still making friendships along the way. As Mary Lewis wrote in our 1962 Silver Anniversary program, may we look into the future and say, may the Creator bring back unto you 1,000-fold the joys that each and every one has so unselfishly given to the world of doll collecting, as I read before. I'm sure Mary Lewis would be amazed at how we have grown, continuing and expanding her dream. She dreamed of our club, the National Doll and Toy Collectors Club. She dreamed of a wonderful organization, the United Federation of Doll Clubs. She dreamed of a doll museum and of the sharing of ideas, giving to charity, and creating special bonds with people sharing the same interest and love of dolls. But I don't think she could have ever imagined how many of her dreams came true. I love that we all can honor the memories of Mary Lewis, my mom, and all the other early pioneers of doll collecting, and I hope that we make them proud. Now, we as a club are looking ahead to our 90th anniversary in 2027. I hope we'll be able to do something special and that all of us will be there together. Thank you.